بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. This is our 25th lesson on the 70 major sins. The last lesson that we talked about was the 23rd and the 24th, which was habitual lying and deliberately taking an oath that you know is false. And the one before that was stealing from the zakat money, as well as from amwal al-muslimin, from baytul mal, as well as doing and taking people's wealth unjustly. Now today's topic is going to be about al-dhulm. And al-dhulm is a general word which means injustice. Al-dhulm, it encompasses consuming a person's property, which we've already talked about, unjustly. It talks about taking people's rights without a just cause. It talks about al-dhulm encompasses striking people with your hand or insulting them with your mannerism, with your tongue, with your words, transgressing against them, and overpowering the weak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in so many verses in the Quran, but there is a particular verse which is very powerful. Allah, He says, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ اللَّهَ غَافِلًا عَمَّا يَعْمَلُ الظَّالِمُونَ إِنَّمَا يُؤَخِّرُهُمْ لِيَوْمٍ تَشْخَصُ فِيهِ الْأَبْصَارِ. Never think that Allah is unaware of the zalimun, of the wrongdoers, the oppressors, the people who commit dhulm. Don't ever think that Allah, He is unaware of that. He is only delaying them for a day when the eyes will stare in horror. So Allah, He's saying that He is giving them time. He is giving them chances after chances, but He's also making sure that their punishment is going to be compounded. And then Allah, He continues and He says, مُهْطِعِينَ مُقْنِعِي رُؤُوسِهِمْ لَا يَرْتَدُّ إِلَيْهِمْ طَرْفُهُمْ وَأَفْئِدَتُهُمْ هَوَاء. That they will be hastening forward with necks outstretched, their heads raised up towards the sky, their gaze returning not towards them, and their hearts empty. Allah, He's saying that their necks will be very high. They're going to be looking up, and they're not even going to be looking down at themselves, and they are going to have empty hearts because of thinking so much only just about the fear that is on the day of judgment. وَأَنذِرِ النَّاسَ يَوْمَ يَأْتِيهِمُ الْعَذَابُ فَيَقُولُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا رَبَّنَا أَخِّرْنَا إِلَىٰ أَجَلٍ قَرِيبٍ نجيب دعوتك ونتبع الرسل أولم تكونوا أقسمتم من قبل ما لكم من زوال. And O Muhammad, warn the people of a day when the punishment will come to them, and those who did wrong, they're going to say, our Lord, delay us for a short term. We will answer your call and follow the messengers. But it will be said to them, had you not sworn before that for you there will be no cessation, there's going to be no ending? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so these people, these wrongdoers, what are they gonna? They say, oh Allah, give us another chance. We swear that we're going to answer your call, meaning we're going to listen to you, and we're going to listen to the messenger. And then Allah, He continues, وَسَكَنْتُمْ فِي مَسَاكِنِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ وَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمْ كَيْفَ فَعَلْنَا بِهِمْ وَضَرَبْنَا لَكُمُ الْأَمْثَالِ. And you lived among the dwellings of those who wronged themselves. And it had become clear to you now, we dealt with them, and we presented for you many examples. And also in another place, in chapter 26, verse 227, Allah, He says, وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. And those who did dhulm, those who wronged, are going to know what kind of a return they will be returned. Meaning, those who did dhulm on the Day of Judgment, they're going to know what's going to happen to them. Dhulm is such a act, even Allah, He made it haram for Himself. Allah, He forbade it. He made it haram for Himself. It comes in hadith of Sahih Muslim that the Prophet ﷺ, he said of a hadith Qudsi, he says, قال الله تبارك وتعالى يا عبادي إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا. He said, O my servants, Allah, He is speaking now. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that Allah, the Almighty, said, O my servants, I have forbidden dhulm, injustice, for myself, and I have forbidden it amongst you. So do not do dhulm with one another. Do not oppress one another. My brothers and sisters, if there is a situation in which you have a choice, there's only two choices. Either you are the oppressor or you're going to be oppressed. For example, either you must kill the person or he must kill you. There's only one choice. Either you must steal his money, and if you don't, he's going to steal your money. There's no other third choice. If we are ever put in that situation, the rule is never be an oppressor. Never steal people's money. Never infringe upon someone's rights. Never be the one who causes harm upon the other individual. You know why? Because he is the most hated person to Allah. It comes in a hadith which is authentic due to circumstantial evidences, due to external factors. It is an authentic hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِشَرِّ عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الْفَضُّ الْمُسْتَكْبِرُ and then he said, أَلَا أُخْبِرُكُمْ بِخَيْرِ عِبَادِ اللَّهِ الضعيف المستضعف ذو الطمرين لو أقسم على الله لأبر الله قسمه. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, he gave us two people. He said, should I not tell you about the worst servant of Allah? The worst person. Who is the worst person? The Prophet ﷺ is going to tell us who is the worst person. He said that they are a cruel and arrogant person. He's a cruel person. He does cruelty. He oppresses people. And he's arrogant. And then he said, should I not tell you about the best servants of Allah? Should I not tell you about the best servants of Allah? And then he said, they are weak, persecuted, meaning they are oppressed. They are weak and they are persecuted, yet, and downtrodden. Yet if they swear an oath by Allah, Allah will fulfill their oaths. These are such weak people that when you look at them physically, they're weak. You look at their social status, they don't have much of a social status. When they come to the masjid, no one really goes out of his way to say salam. But their connection with Allah is different. You don't know what the person does at home. Maybe he wakes up for tahajjud. You know, I came upon a few people in my life that it was revealed to me that these people have actually been praying tahajjud for X amount of years. And no one knew about that. Somehow it came to be known. Just like how we know the stories of the pious predecessors and them crying, you think they woke up the next day and said, by the way, I cried last night. Or they put a post on social media saying, making dua to Allah for the Muslims. No. It's maybe someone saw them, maybe someone came upon them, maybe their crying was so loud that their neighbors, because over there the houses, it was wall to wall. Maybe someone heard it. And yet those were the people that no one knew about. And once they became discovered, they immediately would change their whole city. They would move. Why? Because they don't want to be known. So the Prophet ﷺ said, the best servants of Allah are those who are weak, persecuted, downtrodden, but if they were to swear by Allah, Allah is going to fulfill their oath. What does that mean? It means if they say, Wallahi, this is not going to happen, or this will happen, or Wallahi, you are a liar, or you are right, Wallahi, you are whatever it is, Allah is going to make that come true. These are the types of people that even maybe we have nowadays amongst us as well. And like I've mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He always gives an oppressor and time. He gives him opportunity. So He doesn't seize him at first, but when He seizes him, He doesn't let him go. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, that verily Allah Almighty will give time, respite to the wrongdoers until He seizes him and they cannot escape. Then the Prophet ﷺ, he recited the verse, وَكَذَلِكَ أَخْذُ رَبِّكَ إِذَا أَخَذَ الْقُرَى وَهِيَ ظَالِمَةٌ إِنَّ أَخْذَهُ أَلِيمٌ شَدِيدٌ. Such is the seizure of your Lord when He takes hold of the cities while they are doing wrong. Verily His seizure is agonizing and severe. We don't want Allah to seize us, because His seizure, no one can go ahead and escape from it. And this was an advice that the Prophet ﷺ, he even gave to Mu'adh. The Prophet ﷺ, he was sending Mu'adh as a governor, as a judge to the people of Yemen. He gave him just a few advices. One of those advices which tells us, like when someone is leaving, you're going to give him not a whole lecture. You're just going to give him the top 3-5 advices that he can act upon forever. So the Prophet ﷺ, he gave Mu'adh just a few advices. One of them was what? He said, وَاتَّقِ دَعْوَةَ الْمَظْلُومِ فَإِنَّهُ لَيْسَ بَيْنَهَا وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ حِجَابٌ. He said, Mu'adh, beware, be careful of the dua of the oppressed, because there is no hijab between it and Allah. What does that mean, no hijab? Meaning immediately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's going to answer it. He's going to answer it. What about if the person, he's a non-Muslim, he's a kafir? Doesn't matter. The Prophet ﷺ, he also said, اتقوا دعوة المظلوم وإن كان كافرا فإنه ليس دونها حجاب. That he said, beware of even the non-Muslim's dua against you. If you wrong him, beware of it, even if he's a kafir. And even if a person, he's a sinner, let's say maybe someone, he's drinking, and you oppress him, you do something to this individual, you lock him in a situation where you will go ahead and take advantage of that individual by taking his money wrongfully. Maybe he's drunk. Maybe he's drunk. Whatever the situation is, if you do that even to a person who is a sinner, a Muslim who is a sinner, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that his dua is mustajab. It is going to be answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِن كَانَ فَاجِرًا فَفُجُورُهُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ. His sin is between him and Allah. His wickedness, his sin is only against himself. It doesn't give anyone else the right to go ahead and infringe upon his rights. We might be wondering, look at how much oppression is going on in the world. Why isn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepting our dua and we are oppressed? Look at what's happening to the innocent and weak men and women and children in different parts of the world. Why isn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helping them? This was already answered in the first verse that we mentioned. And that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving them respite. He's giving them time. And also in the other verse, or in the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which he said, Allah, He's giving time to these people. Like for example, Shaitan, Iblis, Allah, He's given him so much time. You know why? Because every day he's committing sins and sins and sins, and that is being compounded, and that is how much the punishment is going to be more and more and more severe upon this individual. But there's another reason as well. And that is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has His own time frame. Allah, He's not affected by time. Me and you are affected by time. Allah, He is time. Like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that Allah, He says that do not curse time, for I am wa ana dahr, I am time. So Allah, He's not affected by time. And so He has His own time frame. But what is 100% sure is Allah will come to your aid. When? We don't know. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, beware of the supplication of the oppressed, for it is carried above the clouds. Allah Almighty, He says, وَعِزَّتِي وَجَلَالِي لَأَنْصُرَنَّكَ وَلَوْ بَعْدَ حِينٍ. That I swear by my might and by my majesty, I will help you even if it is after some time. I will help you in due time. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's saying. So all of the oppressed people, even if it is after 100 years that they have died, they're going to be helped. Revenge is going to be taken on their behalf. And I have seen it with my own eyes. That those people who have done injustice, wallahi, I have seen it. Those who do injustice because they are in a position of power, to those people who are underneath them, wallahi, Allah has turned the tables. Those people who were weak, now they are in a position where they have authority, and these people are beggars on the streets. I have also seen it between husband and wife. I have seen it both for the husband and also for the wife. Whoever does oppression against the other, even if it is after 10 years, even when the children, they grow up, they tend to find out who was doing what against the other. Beware of injustice in all of its forms. And what should we do if we ever wronged someone? We must ask for forgiveness in this dunya before it is too late. The Prophet ﷺ, he said in Sahih al-Bukhari, whoever has wronged his brother should ask for his forgiveness before his death, because on the day of judgment there is no dinar or dirham. So he should secure his forgiveness in this life before some of his good deeds are taken and paid to his brother. Or if he has done or if he does not have any good deeds, then some of the bad deeds of his brother are taken to be loaded on him in the hereafter. So if a person doesn't have any good deeds, or he ran out of his good deeds because he gave them away, then the other person's sins are going to be given to him. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ, he asked the Sahaba actually. He said, do you know mal muflis? Who is a bankrupt person? You know bankrupt, right? You know, we always say this in many of our lectures. We have a definition. Allah, He has a definition. Right? I've said this many, many times. What is a bankrupt person? No, according to you, what is a bankrupt person? Someone who lost everything. This is exactly what the Sahaba said. A person who has no dirham, no dinar. You're going to say a person who doesn't have a penny. He's a bankrupt person. That's the definition. And so he asked this to the Sahaba, and they said, someone who doesn't have any money. No dirham, no dinar. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, no, a bankrupt person is going to come on the day of judgment with mountain of deeds. But then because he hit that person and he struck that person and he cursed that person and he took the right of that person, they're going to be demanding their rights and say, oh Allah, he did this. Allah is going to give them their good deed, His good deeds to them. And then a time will come, no more good deeds. And then there's still more people. Now their sins is going to be given to him. And because of their sins, he's going to go to Jahannam. So imagine the sin of lying. Imagine the sin of cheating. Imagine the sin of whatever it is, backbiting, is going to be given to that individual. He's going to go to Jahannam because of the sin of someone else that was loaded onto him. That is a bankrupt person. It's like in this world, you don't have any money? Okay, I transfer my debt to you. Then you are even more bankrupt. We live also in a time, unfortunately, in which the weak is oppressed so much that he can't get his rights. You want to get your rights? You must be a millionaire, a billionaire, a multi-millionaire, so you can get the right lawyers, file the right papers, and then you can get your money. And you know what the Prophet ﷺ said about such people? Or about such a country? He says, لا قدست أمة لا يأخذ الضعيف فيها حقه غير متعتع. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, and this is an authentic hadith, a nation is not going to prosper. A nation is not going to be blessed. Imagine a country in which the Prophet ﷺ said, this country is not going to be blessed. It's never going to become successful. Why? He said, because the weak cannot take their rights without so many hardships and obstacles that is put in front of him. You must have connection. You must know the judge. You must have, even for me to get a driver license. In certain parts of the country, I must know 100 people to get just the ID. I'm weak. No one knows me. For me to, because someone took my rights, no, you have to get a lawyer. The lawyer wants this much in advance, and no, I should be able to go to the courts, take the person that I have a dispute, and say this person, he did 1, 2, 3. You can't. And that's not even including what if the person who wronged you is someone influential. A nation will never become prosperous or never become blessed if this is the case with the wronged people. One of the scholars, Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, he said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a state, a country, a government successful, even if it is a kafir country, as long as they remain just. And he said, Allah will not allow the oppressive country to become prosperous, even if it is a Muslim country. This is the sunnah of Allah. Can you imagine? Just because you are a Muslim, but you're doing dhulm that somehow, because you are Muslim and you are praying, you're going to be successful? If that's at the macro level, correct? Let's shrink it. Let's put it at the community level. Let's shrink it more. Let's put it at the family level. If the family is oppressed by whoever, maybe in-laws, maybe the husband, maybe the wife, maybe the in-laws from the wife's side or from the husband's side, whoever, Allah is not going to let this family become successful, prosperous. Whoever is the oppressor, Allah is going to make sure that their kids leaves him when he needs them the most. That's the reality. And so this is what Ibn Taymiyyah, he's saying, at the macro level, that Allah, He will not allow a country to go to waste, even if it is a kafir country, but as long as they are just. As long as they are just. The justice, Allah, He loves justice. He loves it so much that even He is going to do justice between animals. Allahu Akbar. That's how much Allah loves justice. And one of the names of the Day of Judgment is called Yawmul Hisab, where everything is going to be taken into account. Yawmul Hisab. And Hisab, who's going to do it? Allah. He's not going to wrong anyone. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he said in Sahih Muslim, لَتُؤَدُّنَّ الْحُقُوقَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ حَتَّى يُقَادَ لِلشَّاةِ الْجَلْحَاءِ مِنَ الشَّاةِ الْقَرْنَاءِ. He said, the rights, the justice is going to be restored to the people on the Day of Judgment. Even the animal, the hornless sheep, there's some sheep, they don't have horns. So in this dunya, the one with the horns, I think is called the ram, right? What happens? He's the alpha male, right? And poor other, he's probably weak. He just gets close to him. And so this ram will go ahead and hit him on the head of the one who doesn't have horns. These are animals. They don't have intellect. On the Day of Judgment, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the one who didn't have horns in this world, but he was hit with the sheep that had horns, Allah is saying, go take your revenge. Go hit him. Subhanallah. That is the justice of Allah. That the hornless sheep is going to take justice or do justice, take his revenge from the sheep that has horns. To that level is the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So do you think that if Allah, He is so just, no one can go to Jahannam without His justice? Except through His justice. Meaning, Allah, He will never oppress anyone. He will never wrong anyone. Anyone who goes to Jahannam, that means they really deserve it. And that is the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just some of the stories that we can mention about injustice. One of them is narrated by Wahab ibn Munabbih, a scholar, a righteous person, an individual who's written books. There's a lot of famous sayings on, things of the heart, of zuhud. He said, once there was a tyrant king, he built a palace for himself. Once he built it, then there was a poor woman in the village. She made a small hut. You guys know what's a hut? What is it being made? Bricks? No. Wood, branches, mud. So she made a small hut besides the palace, so she can live. Okay, at least now maybe she made it in the corner where she only needs to spend just enough to build 2 walls in the roof instead of 4 walls in the roof. Right? So she did it right next to the palace. One day the king, he was going around his palace and he saw the hut. He asked his servants, he said, "Whose hut is this?" They said that it was owned by a poor woman. So he ordered it that it be demolished. When the poor woman, she came back and she saw her hut, it was destroyed, it was demolished. She said, "Who demolished it?" And she was told that it was the king. At this moment, at this point, she directed her face towards the sky and she made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. "O Allah, I was not present when my hut was destroyed, but you were present. You were seeing everything." Meaning, if I was there, at least I could have done something. At least I could have said, "Don't do it." At least I would have cried. But oh Allah, you were present. That's all she said. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. He commanded Jibreel to overturn the palace and everyone inside of it. That's the justice of Allah. You destroyed her house, you overturned it. I'm going to destroy your house and your palace and overturn everyone that was inside there. One of the people, one of the influential people that was close to the Abbasi Khalifas were the Barmakis. Barmakis, maybe you guys can do some research. The Barmakis, they used to be Buddhists in Iran and Afghanistan. We still have some Buddha statues in Afghanistan. They were Buddhists. They accepted Islam. And so when they accepted Islam, they were very smart people. And so they immediately started gaining the favors of the Khalifa of the Abbasi. So the Abbas, they were intellectuals, very smart, so they gave them key positions in Afghanistan, in Iran area. And they were in Baghdad, the Khilafah. But after about 30 years or so, or it was the father, then the son, then the grandson, they were very close to the king. They were very close to the king because they were really serving the Islamic State and making their agenda go forward. But they fell out of favor with the Khalifa. They did a few things, and the Khalifa he saw it as a threat to his rule. He said, they're becoming more famous, more, amongst the people. And they're becoming rich and powerful. So he saw that, he put them in jail. And he killed them. Father, son, grandson. While they were in jail, Khalid ibn Barmak, he was in jail with his son. I think his son's name was Yahya. So remembering, when you're in jail, you have a lot of time to think. So he was in jail with his son, and the son said to his father, he said, "Oh father, those luxurious days that we spent? Now we are in jail." The father said, "Oh son, we paid no attention to the dua of the oppressed, which Allah He received and He did not neglect it." He said, we didn't pay. So what he's saying, he said, we have oppressed people. They made dua against us, and we were successful for more than 30 years. But Allah, He was keeping that dua. He didn't neglect it. And this is our masir. This is our ending. This is our ending. And there's another story. And this story really shook me. It's a story of an individual, a righteous person. He was walking in the marketplace, and he saw an individual whose arm was amputated all the way like here. What is this called? Scallop? This scapula. This joint, right? So this joint where your arm is joined into your shoulder, right? Yeah. So this is the shoulder, correct? Yeah. It was amputated from right here. And this person, he's loudly screaming. He's saying, let every person see me, meaning see this. Let everyone look at me and not commit injustice against anyone. So this righteous person, he said, I went to him and I asked him, he said, oh brother, tell me your story. Why are you saying this? So he said to him, he said, my story is ajib. It's astonishing. He said, I used to be one of the helpers of the oppressors. One day I came across a fisherman who just caught a very big fish and a beautiful fish that I really liked. When I saw it, I said, this looks nice. So I ordered him, because he's like what you can say, mafioso, gangster. That's what he is. I want this fish, is mine. So he goes and he said, give me this fish. He says, no. He said, I'm going to go take this fish. I'm going to sell it. With that money, I'm going to buy rizq. I'm going to buy food for my family. So I hit him, just like a gangster. He said, I hit him. I took the fish and I left. He said, while I was walking down the street with the fish in my hand, it bit my thumb. Maybe he's holding it by the gills, and then he's trying to probably transfer it to his hand. Whatever, he bit his thumb. He said it was so painful, I hurried up to my house and I put the fish on the thing, but then the fish bit me again. He said, you ain't putting me down until I bite you one more time. So he bit him for the second time. He said, I was in so much pain the whole night, I couldn't go to sleep. And then he said, my thumb, it swelled. So in the morning, I went to the doctor to check it out, and he told me that my thumb suffered from gangrene. And it has to be cut off. The thumb has to be cut off, because the infection is going to reach the rest of my wrist. So I let him cut off my thumb. And after a while, he said, my hand started to hurt. My wrist started to hurt so much, I went to the doctor again. He said, it already spread. You better cut off your wrist. I cut off my wrist, and it was still giving me so much pain. I went to the doctor again. He said, it spread towards your arm. You better cut it off, otherwise it goes here. He cut off his hands. And then it was spreading here. He said, hurry up, you better cut it off from the shoulder. He said he cut it off from the shoulders. My friends, they told me, hurry up before it spreads to your body, because if it goes here, then they're going to probably cut you in half. That's not going to be very reasonable or possible. Go and find the person that you took the fish from and ask him for forgiveness. He said, you should have done that the first night. He said, I searched the city and I'm looking for the person until finally I found him. And when I found him, I got on my knees and I kissed his feet, asking him for forgiveness. He said to me, who are you? So I told him, I am the man who beat you up and who took your fish from you. Then I told him the whole story, what happened to me. And then when he saw my arm, he started weeping. And he said, oh my brother, I have forgiven you. So I asked him, he said, have you invoked Allah against me? when I took the fish from you? Did you make dua against me? He said, yes. He said, I supplicated to Allah saying, Allahumma hadha taqawwa alayya biquwwatihi ala da'fi. وأخذ مني ما رزقتني ظلما فأرني فيه قدرتك. Subhanallah. He said, Oh Allah, this person has unjustly used his strength against my weakness to take that which you have given me as risk, meaning my fish. And he did this oppressively. Oh Allah, let me witness your might, your power in him. I want to see your power. And now he saw his power. That's why he started to cry, because he saw the power of his dua against the oppressor. And so this person, he said, Allah has indeed shown you his might in punishing me, and I want to just let you know that I have repented to Allah upon what I was. I have repented to Allah from what I was upon. And so it is not only about us doing injustice, but even if you help people, even if you aid the oppressors, even if you socialize with them. Allah, He says, in Surah Hud, chapter 11, verse 113, وَلَا تَرْكَنُوا إِلَى الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا فَتَمَسَّكُمُ النَّارِ. Don't incline, don't lean towards those who do oppression, lest you should be touched by the fire. And then, وَمَا لَكُم مِّن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِّنْ أَوْلِيَاءَ ثُمَّ لَا تُنْصَرُونَ. Then you are not going to have anyone as protectors besides Allah. Don't lean, don't lean towards an oppressor. Ibn Abbas, he says, what does do not incline or do not lean towards them? It means towards, soft speech, showing kindness to the oppressors. Other scholars said, do not flatter the wrongdoers. Inclining also, it means don't show affection to them. Do not obey them. Do not be pleased with what they do. The angels on the Day of Judgment, they will be ordered by Allah, احشروا الذين ظلموا وأزواجهم وما كانوا يعبدون. Gather those who committed wrong, who committed oppression, their kinds, and what they used to worship. Meaning the oppressors with oppressors. Gather them together. Put them in a separate group altogether. And this hadith is a very powerful hadith. And I think we could really see the ramifications and the effects of this hadith even in our time. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, this hadith is sahih in Sunan at-Tirmidhi, سيكون بعدي أمراء فمن دخل عليهم فصدقهم بكذبهم وأعانهم على ظلمهم فليس مني ولست منه وليس بوارد علي الحوض ومن لم يدخل عليهم ولم يعنهم على ظلمهم ولم يصدقهم بكذبهم فهو مني وأنا منه وهو وارد علي الحوض. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that there's going to be a time where there's going to be rulers that will come after me. Whoever enters upon these rulers, meaning whoever leans towards them, whoever gains an audience with them, whoever basically goes to these rulers and affirms their lies, meaning they believe their lies and support their oppression, they have nothing to do with me, and I have nothing to do with them. They're not a part of me, and I'm not a part of them. And they are not going to come to me at the fountain. You know the fountain where the Prophet ﷺ, he gives a drink to all of his followers. He gives them water from his fountain. That fountain, the Hawd, is from the Kawthar. That Kawthar is a special river that Allah He gave to the Prophet ﷺ, and from it comes the Hawd. So we are having a drink of it, insha'Allah ya Rab, on the day of judgment from the river of the Prophet ﷺ. He said these people are not going to come. Who are these people, Ibrahim?
The oppressors. The oppressors.
No, those people who go to the oppressors. And when the oppressor says something, you're like, yes, I believe what you're saying. يصدقهم بكذبهم أو فصدقهم بكذبهم وأعانهم على ظلمهم. Ibrahim, go. I want you to be my right-hand man, and you go and you do this, this, and that. And so you help me to commit the oppression. You didn't actually do the oppression, but you helped me in committing the oppression. He said, these people, I have nothing to do with them, and they have nothing to do with me, and they're not going to come to me, meaning I will not give them a drink from the fountain. And whoever does not enter the audience of these rulers, does not support their oppression, and does not confirm or affirm their lies, he is a part of me and I'm a part of him, and he will be present at the fountain. This is a huge lesson, and I've said this to many people before. We are living in a world where the person who tells the truth is belied, and the person who is lying, he is affirmed. We are living in a very dirty political world right now. My advice to myself and to everyone who is listening to me is don't get involved. That is the safest thing. If someone says these people are bad people, I don't know them. I don't know if they're bad, but we have pictures and we have videos what they're doing. I don't know anything about them. I'm not going to believe you, and I'm not going to believe them. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, and I'm not going to call anyone any names, and I'm not going to support you. You know why? Because we are living in a time in which there's much deception. Everyone has an agenda. So what is the best thing to do? We just keep quiet. We don't get involved. We don't go ahead, confirm, because we have no way of confirming what the media is telling us. But then we also don't want to support them even with our words, even by regurgitating some of the propaganda and some of the words that they are saying. We don't want to do any of that. We just don't want to believe anyone. I just want to pray. I want to obey Allah. I want to protect my religion, protect my family from the different types of deviancies that are out there. Make halal money, spend it, give zakah, give sadaqah, build a masjid, be involved in the masjid, and that's it. And you will be the safest person. This is my advice to all of the shabab, to all of the older people, to myself first and foremost, before anyone. And I think that this is the safest thing. No need to get politically involved with any groups. Don't trust anyone. Don't believe them, but also don't belie them. Say, I don't know anything. I don't know this group, and I don't know you. So we don't fall under this, because what if you wrong those people? What if because of your one fatwa or your one word, now a whole group of people and some innocent people are annihilated? Who do you think the sin is going to be upon? It's upon every single person. How? Those people who even help them even with their word. You know, when Imam Ahmed during the Mihnah, when he was, he was tried, he went through a lot of oppression. He was oppressed, all because he believed the Quran is not created and it is the word of Allah. That's it. So one of the prison guards, the one who was, his job is what? Is he the oppressor? No, the Khalifa told him, put him in prison. So he's obeying, he's doing his job. He's a police officer. He's a prison guard. So he comes to Imam Ahmed and he asks him whether the hadith regarding helping the oppressors is authentic. This hadith that I just mentioned. He said, is this hadith authentic? He said, yes. So he said, am I considered to be the helpers of the oppressors? Imam Ahmed, he said that a'anatul al-zalama are those that comb their hair. You know, they have special people, they don't comb their hair, they have other people comb their hair. Clean their clothes. They do the laundry for them. They prepare food for them. They buy and sell. He said these are called helpers of the oppressors. He said, as for you, you are the oppressor. SubhanAllah. Why? Because you are part of the system. Whereas the person who is doing the laundry for the zalim, he's not part of the system. He's outside of the system. So he's just cleaning their clothes. He's a caterer and he's just providing food for them. He said, those are the helpers of the oppressors. Wa alaikum salam. The oppressors, you are the oppressor. But you might be saying, I'm just following orders. You are part of the system, that wheel that turns the whole oppression forward. Sufyan al-Thawri, we know him. He's one of the greatest scholars in the time of Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, and Imam Shafi'i. Sufyan al-Thawri, he said that a tailor, he came to him. You guys know what's a tailor? The person who makes clothes. He said, I make clothes, I sew clothes for the Sultan. Am I considered one of the helpers of the oppressors? Sufyan al-Thawri, he said, you are the oppressor. He said the helpers of the oppressors are those who buy the needles and who buy the thread. You know the thread? They sold you the thread. They sold you the needle so you can do it. These are, if they know that you are doing this for the oppressors, they were not involved directly in making it, but they gave you the equipment to go ahead for you to tailor the clothes for the Sultan, who is an oppressor. He said, you are the oppressor. The helpers, which is a degree lower, the helpers of the oppressors are those who sold you the needle and the threads. We are living in such a time. We have to be very careful who we associate ourselves. We don't ever want to associate ourselves with any group. Leave every group in which an innocent person is oppressed because of even one word you said. And that's why I mentioned in one of the hadith that it was what's his name, Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman. He said, you know the Sahaba, they used to always ask about positive things, about good things. I used to always ask about the bad things. Do you think he was a negative person? He wasn't a negative person. He didn't have a very, negative world view. He wasn't a negative person. He said, I was asking about negative stuff because I was afraid I might fall into the shar, the evil. So I asked him, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with Islam. He saved us. So much good. After this, is there going to be bad? He said, yes. There's going to be like a lot of turmoil. He said, after this turmoil, is there going to be good? He said, yes. وَفِيهِ دَخَنٌ. He said, وَمَا دَخَنُهُ? What is this smoke? What is this like obscurity? Like it's good, but you can't, it's like clouded. in a lot of conspiracy and smoke. He said it's going to be people who will talk about things. أُنَاسٌ يَتَكَلَّمُونَ بِأُمُورِ دِينِكُمْ. People who is going to be mentioning things about the religion. Neither you nor your forefathers ever heard about this. What is this new thing? Meaning they're going to be making up things about the religion and mixing other truth to it. You never heard about this. This new stuff that's happening. فَإِيَّاكُمْ وَإِيَّاهُمْ. Woe to you and woe to them. Woe to you because you're living in such a time like this and you are in confrontation. And then he said there's going to be a time that will come. دُعَاتٌ عَلَىٰ أَبْوَابِ جَهَنَّمْ. Scholars that's going to stand at the door of Jahannam telling people, come, I invite you to Jahannam. But they're masking it with the smoke. What's the smoke? They're going to say, this is deen, this is Islam, this is this. But then when you enter and you accept their invitation, you're actually falling into Jahannam. Allah, He gives you a critical thinking. Allah, He gives you an intellect. You know what was because from a young age I've been seeking knowledge, but I wanted to seek it in a very methodological way. I just wanted to go ahead and dedicate myself. And so I would find people, because when you have half knowledge, that's actually very dangerous. Like when you only know half of the religion or parts of it, that's very dangerous. Because when you don't know the whole religion, or holistically you don't know it, because then you know one part, you don't know the other part, and then you might be causing yourself damage and other people. So that was, but I never found an opportunity because, there was, the world was changing vastly. But I would seek knowledge here and there. It wasn't quenching my thirst. Finally, what was the tipping point? The tipping point was, I had people telling me this is halal. Another person, trustworthy people, to me, this is haram. Has that ever happened? They said, this is halal. I said, okay. And then I'm doing it. Another scholar say, it's haram. I said, subhanallah. It's either halal or haram. It's either kufr or shirk or Islam. It's either bid'ah or sunnah. I said, oh Allah, I only have one life. I don't want to be led by, this is the exact words I said. I don't want to be led by someone leading my hand into Jahannam. Let me make the decision by myself upon knowledge. I left everything. Whatever money I had, whatever I had, I said, no, I only have one life. I wish I had two lives. Because if I messed up in one, if I listened to one guy, and then I die and I found out, he led me astray, then I come back into this dunya, make sure you don't follow this person, make sure you follow the other person. But I don't. I only have one life. It's make it or break it. Seek knowledge. Don't follow those people who's going to mislead you. You are going to be the helpers of the oppressors. So Sufyan al-Thawri, he said that no, the helpers of the oppressors are those who sells the needle and the thread. You who is making the clothes for the sultan, you are the oppressor. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from ever becoming oppressors and from ever becoming the helpers and the assistant and the aid for the oppressors. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help the oppressed, the mazlumeen all over the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them and honor them and raise their ranks and preserve them in this dunya and in the akhirah. May Allah deal with all of the oppressors all over the world the way that He sees fit. May Allah allow us to see His might, His qudra in them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our dua without any hijab between it and Him. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.